Good afternoon, my name is Richard Cockle. I'm the Global Head of Identity, IoT and Data at the GSMA, and it's my real honour to be here with you today at this exciting session that we're going to go through over the next hour. It's quite a packed agenda, so I won't stay up here for very long. I just want to run through the agenda and say we've got a panel session in a few moments which will look at the applications around the industrial applications around mobile-enabled drones now. I'll give a quick update in terms of what the GSMA is doing in terms of trying to develop the mobile-enabled drones ecosystem further. We'll then get some insights and trends from Hendrik in terms of what looks like it's going to happen, what are we seeing happening in the market. And then finally, we'll have a final session which will take a deep dive into what the future will look like for this particular sector. So with all of that said, I'd like to invite Philip Butterworth Hayes to the stage, along with his panel members, and look forward to a very insightful session.
Thank you very much indeed for the introduction. So I think it's the most exciting panel in the event today, because I'm in the drone space, and what we are doing in the drone industry is not just making drones go a bit faster or a bit further. We are actually redefining the way that humans and machines will work together in the future, and we're doing it in such a way that is absolutely astonishing speed. And the challenges that we're facing are enormous. And we can only do it with stakeholders like mobile network operators to provide a key part of the jigsaw. And for me, I think there are three areas in particular where we need to look at. The first one is obviously connectivity, connecting the vehicle to all the infrastructure and to the operational systems. There's the UTM part, which is to make sure that the traffic management system will work well. And then there is all that data that you can download using video, using analytics. So when you fly, you're also doing a lot of analytical procedures, and you can do some tremendous stuff with that. And all this will require some kind of mobile network functions. So that's me finished. Just before I go, I would like to say when we do have this session, it'd be good to bear in mind that we are talking to the mobile network operator industry. And they will be wanting to know things like, what should I invest in? What's the business case? What are the key technologies? What are the key challenges that we need to overcome to create this ecosystem? So with that in mind, I'd like to, first of all, fantastic, we have our colleague from the UK. I'd like to ask, who should I pick out first? I'd like to ask Philippe from Thales. Looking at these enormous questions, is it actually possible? Can we do this? Can we do this within, say, 4 or 5 years? Can we create a drone ecosystem capable of autonomous flight, BV loss, with everything that entails?
Well, thank you, Philippe, for this very wide question. I decided to come to this panel by being very humble first, so to speak, because we are at the beginning of a story. We are inventing somewhat a new ecosystem while we walk, and since we are today in the worldwide fair for mobile telephony, and since I've been working with mobile network operators since 1992, I have to say that first of all, what we need probably to do is to make mobile network operators and, let's say, the aviation ecosystem to understand one another. I think our biggest challenge is to establish common words, common practice, and way to work together in these outstanding opportunities, which is the drones for industrial application like consumer application. So let's be humble and let's make sure that both communities, network guys, and let's say the aviation ecosystem work together better.
Well, I mean, you're talking about two very different industries here, two very different cultures, two different languages here. I'm going to ask Toby, who's sitting in the background there, who's beaming down on us like Big Brother. Toby, how easy is it to get these two, to bring these two industries together, do you think? And how important is it, and how do we do it? There's some easy questions for you.
Well, certainly as and just to sort of give a bit of background here, I'm from Drone Evolution. We're a national provider of services to telco masts for infrastructure inspections. So we do kind of work with the industry already to a degree. But I think what we've touched on already is the potential is much bigger than taking some pictures. There's a lot more to that. I think there's going to have to be some kind of meeting of minds somewhere in terms of, and I think, you know, panels like this are going to be the start of that. You know, it's got to be conversations between the MNOs, their suppliers, and the likes of us, actual service providers, product providers. We make our own tethered drone, for example. So, you know, for example, we could have a temporary telco mast, but on a drone that stays up in the air for hours. And it's a bit like the old expression from Henry Ford. If I'd asked them what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. You don't necessarily know what you don't know in terms of what we're doing. We don't necessarily know what the industry is doing from a background perspective. So there has to be some meeting of minds somewhere. And forums like this at the start of it, I only wish I could be there in person to perhaps make the most of that opportunity. But certainly I think it's got to be the way forward, because there is so much that the drone industry could be doing to support MNOs and their suppliers right across the world.
Great, thank you, Patrick. I mean, you've come from Airbus, which is a fantastic aircraft manufacturing company, and now you're looking at this space. What worries you? Where would you like the mobile communications industry to really focus on, to provide the same kind of connectivity, the same kind of safety that you have with commercial aviation?
But today, as mentioned by Philippe, and I support clearly the new innovation in the system, the ecosystem of the drones is very complex. That means Airbus only is not able to develop this full capacity and the full requirements alone. Today we have two different worlds, as mentioned, the telco world with different standards and requirements, and the aviation world. What we need to do, and it's a fantastic, I would say, a fantastic convergence we need to tackle, is to converge between the telco worlds and aviation with safety requirements, with as well operation and critical mission requirements in one world inside this ecosystem, including the drones. But I will say vehicles, because it's more taxi for Airbus. It's not small drones in terms of definition. And the ecosystem of integration as well inside the ecosystem. When I speak about ecosystem, it is the interaction with air traffic management and as well urban traffic management in one complex infrastructure to manage the digital world and the digital aviation, and as well the new environment of drones, including our partnership in that case, MNOs.
Brilliant, thank you. Philippe, what's the Thales view on 5G? How are you going to use 5G in the future? Presumably you're looking at 5G not just for drones and for other connectivity issues, but also for wider commercial aviation purposes.
Well, I think, obviously 5G offers a lot of opportunities in a sense that this is much more modular. You can slice, you can do all sorts of things. But I mean, coming back to the drone opportunity and somewhat giving some hint, or where I think the mobile carriers are very well placed, is the fact that the MNOs of the world have always been a fantastic identification machine. They have been identifying their customers since day one, to connect them on the network. And by the way, they have already used that opportunity to do payments, to do identity on mobile. And one of the opportunity to combine their, let's say, legacy capabilities with this 5G coming on board and this drone opportunity is somewhat to be a fantastic identity machine, identity provisioning machine for both the drone and the pilot. And for me, it's one of the ideas which is core to what they should focus when it comes to this opportunity.
Right, that's clear. I mean, Toby, the problem is that there are going to be so many stakeholders who are going to be required in this to develop an ecosystem, and they've all got to make money, and they've all got to invest, and they've all got to know that their investment is secured. How much of a problem do you see that for drone operators planning ahead, looking at the business case and saying, okay, well, how much is connectivity going to cost me? When do you think we'll have an idea of exactly what the business revenue, what the stakeholder business revenue issues are going to be?
It's a really difficult one because I think it's the use cases and that drive the decisions to switch to a 5G-enabled system. So, you know, from our perspective, flying drones for right around the UK for infrastructure inspections, there's not really a huge need for 5G in that sense. So what would be handy if photos and video were sent directly to laptops from a 5G-enabled drone, for example, and when we do an infrastructure inspection, it could be sent directly to a control center. The appetite for that from clients isn't there yet. And I think we're a good probably 2 to 3 years away from that. So I think it's going to be driven ostensibly by the market. You know, the challenges around the amounts of stakeholders involved. I mean, you know, every single infrastructure system, ecosystem on the planet has that issue. You know, whether it's roads, rail, or what have you. Incredibly complex systems, ecosystems. Drones shouldn't be any different than that. I don't think it needs to be seen as being different to that. It's just new. There are some good UTM providers who, in the likes of Altitude Angel, who have got some of this kind of infrastructure stuff pretty much nailed already because they've been doing it to a degree. The 5G element makes it faster and better, but you know, some of that work has already been done. And obviously there is the government and regulatory ecosystems that sit around that. So it also depends on government appetites to have drones flying around, you know, for deliveries and so on. And I think that's the other thing that we need to remember is what is the use case and what are the benefits to humankind as a result of those use cases. And I think that's what's going to drive activities, you know, rather than it being from waiting until regulations have caught up, because you never will. The technology will always move faster.
Thank you. So if you look at Airbus, do you have any idea of timescales, Patrick, for, I mean, let's go beyond drones for a second. Let's look at passenger air transport within cities. Do you have a view? Do you have a view on when that might be happening?
It's a good question. Thank you for raising that. Clearly today we are still in demonstrator phase, clearly. Airbus developed, I would say, 3 demonstrators today: Varana, City Airbus, Room. Bon. They are still defined as demonstrator for different reasons. We define objectives with each demonstrator. The vision is we will not move from a autonomous flying vehicle from now to the next 5 years. I am more convinced on the co-pilot today, like a remote co-pilot of drones in between, and certainly the next, I would say, next 8 to 10 years, a full autonomous flight. The big issue in between it is how to fly safely. Yep. With the right connectivity path. Anyway, absolutely, the connectivity, it is the enabler of all of that, including the certification process and mission control operations. Our vision is the 5G is mandatory for that, and with the help and the MNOs on top of that. But not only, we are convinced within Airbus that a hybrid mode for the communication is essential to be compliant with the requirement. That means 5G, but as well satellite communication for security and safety reasons mainly. for mission critical operations in that case, and mainly for passenger operations. So as a conclusion, I will say from now to 8 to 10 years for full autonomous flight, but in between could be remote co-pilots and so on. It is more this vision we try to push.
Yeah. Thank you. But I mean, you touched on a key thing there, which is the safety issue. So the one thing that we're all absolutely assured of, that this, whatever happens, it may be other things you can negotiate, but you cannot negotiate on safety. So I'm very interested, given Thales' experience in this area, what can you bring to this new industry that shows you've got an aviation grade safety thinking, right from the start?
But at the end, or let's say in the middle as well, it's a question of coordination between drone operations, the drone operator, the airspace control, the air traffic control, and the law enforcement community. And these are some of the capabilities of Thales, but going beyond Thales, I think what is important is to make sure that we create a solution which is making a very efficient, software of some sort, which help those three parties to co-work together in terms of planning for the mission, but also in terms of identifying who is flying where, and also for any unpredicted event when you need to rearrange everything on the airspace. So having this sort of common platform where, again, law enforcement, drone operations, and airspace control can coexist and work together is essential. And this is a strong, let's say, forte of Thales, and we are working on it, obviously. And in the middle, or somewhere, you could see the MNOs as a sort of broker in terms of connectivity and identity. So they need to be part of this ecosystem. But I would say the main goal is to create this common platform which go ways beyond what we have today in terms of air traffic management. This is, let's say, another generation of air traffic control what we need to put in place.
And presumably, if you can do this for drones, you can also do this for the wider air traffic control environment at some stage.
Yes.
That's another debate, of course, to have with controllers. Toby, I mean, how do you see the evolutionary steps going from where we are now then to looking at one pilot with, three pilots with one drone? If you've got to land somewhere, you've got to have somebody to make sure it lands and takes off. Possibly you need somebody to make sure that it's okay once it's gone beyond the pilot's visual line of sight. How do we get from where we are now to that crucial, beyond visual sight, line of sight, automated, one person to 20 drone operation?
So I think, there's got to be a lot of that is going to be down to governance. So the aviation authorities in countries are going to have decisions to make about that. I think there's probably some debate around autonomous landing at the moment, because GPS gives quite a wide kind of margin for error, if you like. So that's not necessarily the preferred method of choice. So I think there's going to be some developments on that front, and I think there are companies out there working on that kind of stuff as we speak. I know Skyports are delivering coffee in Ireland, so it's about not Skyports, sorry, company now. But anyway, there's some trials going on in delivering coffee in Ireland, and I think Coke have been involved now as well. So really, it's about the sort of sectors kind of taking the leap and driving some of that stuff, and some investment going in the right place. But I always come back, and it's got to be that kind of. It's going to be driven by demand, and just because we can do something doesn't mean that it will. We're working on tethered systems that can't go anywhere. So, that could be a step forward, for example, where, the system is up in the air, the drone is up in the air for hours, but it's powered from the ground via wire, it can't actually go anywhere. and therefore that's kind of that first step to automated flying, because you can have a system where the drone comes out and it lands again, and it provides asset management inspections, for example, points on railway lines, or where if there's an accident on a road, you know, an embedded tethered drone could get immediate eyes on to detail, and could also then provide 5G Wi-Fi connectivity for the emergency services. Those are the kind of things that I think we'll see, or certainly we would like to see, moving forward as a first step to that, because actually then your safety case is enveloped around it really can't go anywhere. So you can control, the idea being that you can control that thing from a control center if you need to, or it can respond autonomously to stimuli such as noise or vibrations and so on. So I think that can start to embed a kind of trust with perhaps the general public that the systems are safe, and then those steps can move forward. But I think that, you know, as already been pointed out, you know, these things are going to take time. They are going to take investment, but I think some of those safety cases are probably what's going to start the ball rolling, because again, it's about what are we doing here? Are we making things better for people, or are we making more money for people? From people. So I think, you know, some of that kind of safety cases are probably going to be help to embed those the use cases in people's minds, perhaps a bit more than, you know, getting a coffee or a Coke. No disrespect, other brands are available.
Thank you. So we've just got a few more minutes left. Could I just ask you to give me your final thoughts really on the issue of how you see the next stage in terms of MNOs, mobile network operators, working with industry to get to that first step? Because I think the first stage is going to be really important, that we have an ecosystem in a city where the drones can communicate with whoever they need to communicate, where there's air traffic management there. How do we form the relationships that we need to form with the cities, with industry, with your good selves? How do we do that? Have we done it yet? Have we started on this yet, or do we need to start now?
Well, actually, things have already started. I mean, we are participating in a demonstration. I mean, today we are in different parts of the world, some corridors which have been specifically designed to experiment. We are, for example, working in North Dakota with Verizon Wireless on a specific corridor to experiment things. This is also happening in Australia with Testra, close to Melbourne. I think I would really encourage this kind of pilots. I mean, this demonstration, this experimentation, so that, I mean, everybody, including the MNOs, can test with the authorities what needs to be standardized later on to make this ecosystem viable.
Great, thank you. Toby, your last thoughts on this. How do you see that ecosystem developing?
Yeah, I really agree with that. I think it's got to be about the willingness to try different things. You know, obviously the private sector is probably in a better place to do that and take some risks. I think some of that will be around, you know, where can we use drones to actually benefit the MNO in the first place? So, I mean, for example, we're working with BT Openreach at the moment to look at the tops of wooden telephone poles, and you know, that data could be fed straight back. I mean, immediately to a control center, so the data will be immediately available. You know, great for asset management and that kind of stuff. So, you know, and as I've talked about our tethered system Skywire already, you know, to be able to have something that can monitor assets for periods of time, it will be a huge advantage. So it's got to be around working with MNOs on pilots, proving cases, proving that it's better than what's out there now, because I think that's always the question: is it better than what we can do already? And if it is, then we should do it, and if it's not, we shouldn't. So, you know, you're not going to know that until you try it. So I would really echo that, and I think it's getting those discussions going that I think will be the challenge at the right level, so that people can really grasp that and move it forward.
Thank you very much. And one final word from you?
But clearly, we already started the work with MNOs, and Airbus encourage this convergence, clearly. And as well, the new partnership, that means any kind of companies working in this ecosystem, a very complex ecosystem, can converge with us. So we will not work alone. That's my word, my final word.
So we're already on the road. We've already started.
And we start just a new road now, because all is new.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for all your time. Thanks for your attention, everybody, and look forward to seeing you back in a few minutes. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Philip. That was a very insightful panel session. We're now just going to be quickly cleaning some of the seats so we can be ready for our next panel. But while we do that, I'll just take you through some of the work the GSMA is doing around trying to evolve this ecosystem and bring it together. The GSMA has a focus and a piece of work looking at connectivity for aviation. And it's dedicated to build and strengthening the partnerships between the mobile and the aviation industry. And with the aim to try and support the solutions of the future. Our vision is to better understand what the aviation industry's requirements are and explore the services that will be needed to offer a broad range of new capabilities to the industry. Our current focus is on commercial drones, where mobile connectivity can play an important role in supporting beyond visual line of sight operations and help the industry to scale as a whole. We're doing this engagement and this networking and this broadening of the ecosystem through two key channels. The first one is very much focused on educating the mobile industry, giving them an idea of what the opportunities are, what the business cases might be specifically for MNOs. We've had our drones interest group now running for over 5 years, and we look at all aspects of mobile connectivity and how to best deploy the capability into drones. The group is now led by Rogers from Canada, and it runs a quarterly meeting where knowledge is shared and opportunities are explored. As you'll see there's a link down the bottom. If there's any of the MNOs in the room that would like to participate, please do join. The second area is a strategic relationship that the GSMA's created with GSMA. GSMA is the Global UTM Association. We saw the value in bringing the GSMA and its breadth of membership in the mobile ecosystem together with the similar type organisation that GSMA is. And within that, we've been working on a number of key topics that are going to be fundamental to the development of this industry going forward. So we're looking at remote identifications and how mobile technologies can be used for that to meet the regulations defined in a number of countries. We're also looking at how what other services are relevant for UTM command and control systems. And the group is open to any GSMA or GSMA member. So if you're interested, again, you can see how you can find out more. You'll also find that there are a number of reports, case studies that you can read online. And as you can see, we're now back in business of meeting in person. So through that community, you'll be able to get together with like-minded people with the same mentality and interests. So with that, I'd like to hand over to our next speaker, Hendrik Bodecker from the Drone Industry Insight.
Mask. Can you hear me well? Is it on? Oh, it's on. Okay. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot imagine how happy I am to be here at a physical. I take this one now. Now you hear me, right? Oh, very good. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot imagine how happy I am to be here at this first physical panel since 1.5 years, since this coronavirus started. Luckily, GSMA invited me to take part at the panel Future Opportunities for Mobile-Enabled Drones. And as some introductory information, I would like to show you some slides about the general drone market. But first, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Henrik Bödecker. Thanks for the introduction. I am the co-founder of the market research company Drone Industry Insights. What we do is we help companies to understand the drone market, and we help them to establish sustainable business models and entering the commercial drone market. We founded our company in 2015. Since then, we gathered all kind of quantitative and qualitative insights about the commercial drone market. And one very important insight is the drone market value, which you can see on the next slide. Mobile-enabled drones are a part of this total global drone market value, which we predicted for 2021 was 26.3 billion US dollars. And this size will grow with an annual growth rate of 9.4% to 41.3 billion US dollars in 2026. Do you think this is a high value? I doubt, because 40 billion US dollars is the total revenue of Vodafone in last year. So, as Philip says, we are just at the beginning with the drone market. This market value consists of the recreational and the commercial market. We accept the military market or the defense market. And these numbers also consist of all segments, hardware, software, and services, where the service sector is by far the biggest one. And finally, the part of mobile-enabled drones is a very short portion, I think around 1% or so, but we are just at the beginning. One side note is, when we predicted these numbers in 2018 with a forecast from 2019 to 2024, we had a growth rate with around 14%. You see the growth rate decreased a little because we already observed a short saturation of the recreational market. So the hype is a little bit over, and but the commercial drone market is increasing more than before. As a further introduction or preparation for this panel today, I asked on the LinkedIn poll my followers what do they see as the most important benefit of using mobile networks for drones today. Luckily, 72 people answered this poll. I mean, it's not too bad, it was a 3 days poll. And 8% of them see that the secure drone identification is important for them. Secure drone identification means to enter and operate in the airspace reserved for drones by using mobile networks. But we will talk later about it, how it works. 22% answered that real-time data analysis is most important for them. The standard for today is that when people fly an operation with drones, they collect data, mainly images. They land, put out the SD card, and put it in a computer to make post-processing of the data they have. In the future, 5G will hopefully enable that they can do the data analysis in real time. The most important and the key driver of the whole drone industry and the drone market is BVLOS navigation. So BVLOS means, I don't know if you all know what BVLOS means. BVLOS means operating drones beyond visual line of sight, so outside of your visual control. Why is it so important for many? BVLOS promises work remotization. So you can sit somewhere in the back office send a command to a drone, and the drone will do your work somewhere else 50 kilometers away. This is very highly desired, and as I said, it's the one and only, but also the most challenging driver of the whole drone industry. Yeah, that was my short introduction. Hopefully it did not take too long. If you have any questions, just drop me a message or visit our website, and I'm happy that the panelists will join me now on the stage. Should I take it with me?
Okay, I won't go anywhere then.
Yeah, sorry.
That's fine.
Thank you, Hendrik. That was really interesting, and it goes to show the potential
going,
that's
Andrew?
there, and how it's changing very rapidly. COVID has changed it. It was very interesting to see that the recreational
Did you pick that on
interest is
purpose?
going down a bit, but
pick
the
it on
commercial continues to rise. We have here some fantastic heavyweights of the industry, and it's a great privilege to be on the panel with them. I'd like to start with Mark, if I could, from the Barcelona Drone Center. Mobile technology will be a key driver for the development of the new market verticals, such as drone delivery. Perhaps you could talk a bit about the mechanics of drone delivery here. Yeah.
Sure, Philip. With radio communications, we're limited to fly the drone in line of sight from the pilot. While if we use mobile technology, we could be all here commanding a drone flying on the other side of the world. So I think this is a game changer, and this unleashes the potential of drone delivery, which is a transport that makes a whole lot of sense, right? Because if you want to move to things in 2 dimensions in the ground, you may encounter plenty of obstacles. The ground is plenty of obstacles. You may encounter geographical and human obstacles such as mountains, valleys, rivers, cities, traffic jams, right? So if you just fly some meters above the ground, what you encounter is a piece of atmosphere, a layer of atmosphere, completely unpopulated. And you can go from point A to point B in a straight line in a very efficient way and very fast. And society is asking every day to have things straight away. If we ask somebody, when do you want to have your parcel delivered, in 3 days or today, the answer is going to be obvious, right? So in this sense. One more thing is the economical part, right? The cost per item of air freight is significantly more expensive compared to ground transportation, which means that by now, the only applications that make sense for this kind of technology are the payloads with high added value, like emergency products or high-end products. But I'm sure with the pass of the time, as time goes by, this economical barrier will surely decrease.
Brilliant. Thank you. Hendrik, 2021 is a year of regulation, isn't it, in many ways? There's a lot been happening in the States, a lot been happening in Europe. Who's got the edge? Who's got the regulatory part right, do you think, at the moment?
Thanks. It's a good question. And as you said, 2021 is the door opener, I must say, where the European Union and the FAA established some very robust frameworks for the drone industry. The whole thing started around 2012 with the FAA Modernization Act. Almost all countries today followed and established a robust framework. The problem is that this framework is mainly good or applicable for easy and standard drone operation, not for complex operations. And the industry and the added value comes only with complex drone operations. And what we see now is that we have a robust framework. Everybody, the European Union and USA are leading with it, but we also have other countries like Singapore, Australia, Malaysia. They are also doing a very good job, or did a good job so far. But what we still miss is standards. Because if you're not coming from the aviation industry and you want to fly complex mission with a drone, for them it's a big hurdle to understand how to comply with the regulatory framework. So you need standards to help them to write manuals, to apply at an authority, aviation authority, to operate drones. So countries do good who help people with implementing regulations, establishing standards, and establishing a testing environment, like here in Spain with Mark's company BCN Drone Center. You need to test. You need to learn how drones are in the air and how to be in compliance with safety measures. So no country is leading. So far, everybody have the same challenges now.
They do indeed. Nicholas, I'd like to hear more about the convergence of 5G, edge, and artificial intelligence. Perhaps you could give us some ideas of some commercial enterprise opportunities there.
Yes, and hi, good afternoon, everybody. At Unmanned Life, we have created this autonomous robotics orchestration platform. So we are able to control fleets of autonomous drones, different type of autonomous mobile robots, a combination of them. So we leverage the network, and 5G is a technology that will make it all come together. The intelligence at the edge, the AI that makes the processes more intelligent. Without going further than this morning, we launched with Telefonica today, Telefonica Unmanned Security Services. With our platform and together with Telefonica, we go together to the market to offer drone-enabled solutions, in this case for the security and surveillance sector. And our strategy is really to do that with different type of telco operators. We're working with more than 10. Use cases we are doing now today in the city of Vienna with Magenta Telecom. Emergency response in the Danube River, more than 200 people fall every year into the river. They need to deploy every time 30 people, 30, to do the search and rescue. By deploying autonomous drones to do the search and rescue, we are bringing down to 9 people the intervention. So you free up firefighters that they can be deployed for other purposes and protect the citizens differently. So that's a concrete application on the conjunction of AI for the intelligent decision making, 5G for the very precise image processing, yeah, and the edge.
Well, it seems to me we're making a lot of progress in a short space of time then, really, that one. Elena, thank you for coming all the way from the States to be here today. It's great.
My pleasure.
Given your expertise in 5G and the work that MITRE is doing in the Open Generation 5G Consortium, can you tell us what your challenges are and how you're going about meeting that with the consortium?
That's a very interesting question. So the challenges, and we've heard a little bit from the previous panel, from my co-panelist here, is that drones is a huge vertical, and is one that has lots of regulations, lots of players, and it's almost like an overlay if you think to the 5G networks. And that's what we are focusing, because we see, first of all, that there was an interest from everyone, from, and I work for MITRE, which is a research and development entity for the US government, and we saw from the Department of Energy all the way to the rest of the agencies that we serve. And in the private sector, there was also huge interest on developing drones for the applications that have been mentioned. So the challenge, that's what we put the consortium, because we thought that bringing everyone together and bringing them to work in these problems that are really hard, because we have now deliveries, and we have a lot of the things, a lot of the applications that are ground-based. We want to enable that with with drones. So how do you do that? How do you fly them safely? How do you develop the business case? And all that, we thought, especially for those hard-to-solve cases, and we, for example, have test ranges now in the consortium that are over 100 miles range, where we are going to test mobility use cases, we are going to test special payload use cases, and all these, like I said, really hard problems to solve. And the trick is coming all together. We have big operators, we have big drone manufacturers, we have a lot of the ecosystem that comes together to develop this.
Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, Mark, so if I was a betting man, what would be a good bet for the first commercial drone delivery operations in Barcelona? When do you think we're going to see that? And other parts of the world, but let's look at Barcelona at the moment.
Yes, I think we are facing several challenges before we see this deployed at large scale. Maybe the first challenge is the technological readiness of drones. We have our drones ready, but do we need them to have a remote identification? Do we need to have like sense and avoid systems? Second question would be the social acceptance. Is society ready to get their parcels delivered with a drone? Another question would be, are cities prepared for that? Will we have to redesign, readapt our rooftops, our balconies, our windows? Will we have to develop a vertiport or a drone port in the middle of the city? And the most important one is regulation. We come from a scenario in which in Europe, each member state of the European Union had its own regulation in which it was explicitly prohibited to transport goods or people. Now we're lucky that on January 1st this year, the new European drone regulation came into force. And finally, for the first time, is contemplating this drone delivery for the first time. So the hard law has been published. Now we're waiting for the soft law to see how we're going to follow this criteria step by step. So once we fulfill all these challenges, I think we're going to see finally drones delivering parcels in Barcelona and other cities in the world. I have the feeling that's going to be not before 3 years for sure, but I have the feeling as well that it's going to be something really progressive. We're going to start seeing deliveries in rural areas where the operation risk is low, and slowly we're going to increase this risk and finally see all these parcel deliveries in big cities.
That's really interesting. Presumably, I mean, the community has a very important part to play in this because they will say what they like and what they don't like, and things will have to change. So it's going to take a long time, isn't it, before we actually get to a mature commercial drone delivery industry, I think. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, that's my views. Hendrik, who's moving faster, the mobile operator deployments of 5G or the commercial enterprise demand for mobile-enabled drone applications?
The answer is very clear. The enterprises are naturally very slow compared to the an average very young drone market. The enterprises definitely struggle, of course, first with the regulation, and second, they struggle with the knowledge because they are not aware of the huge added value a drone can bring to their business. The drone companies who are currently existing, I can tell you they are definitely ready to take off. They prepare already for the new remote ID regulations coming from the US, and they are already starting to equip their drones with 5G modules, so they are ready to take off compared to the enterprises.
That's really interesting. So yeah, so everybody's getting the hardware ready in place for when the time comes. Okay. Nicholas, let's talk about the challenges. Can you cite the biggest hurdle or a single major hurdle that you think needs to be solved for the convergence of drones and mobile technologies?
Definitely. I think I will focus on two.
Right.
The first one, of course, is connectivity, and it was mentioned before, so I will not go into the details. But if we think a bit further, if we think, okay, we will have drones, autonomous drones deployed at scale that will be going, for example, in between two countries in border zones. How do you switch from one edge cloudlet to another? So this type of dynamic offloading is something that is being solved now, and that will benefit the scalability of the industry itself. Another part is how do you optimize between in the network slicing, how do you optimize the different services, and what do you prioritize these services for? So there are challenges that are being worked on, and the more we progress in the roadmap, the more they will be solved to reach commercial deployment by 2024, as indicated by the European Union.
Right, okay, brilliant. I mean, talking about the European Union, EASA, the European Aviation Safety Agency, has just done a poll of European citizens in 6 cities, and they showed people in those cities, what drone deliveries could be, what urban air mobility could be like, and 83% said this is something they would like to see. So social acceptance, in theory, could be quite high in Europe. I wonder what the situation is like in the States, and how do we get not people just to support drones, but actually want them. So we move from a technology push to a community pull industry, which is what we need to have, I think.
Yeah, and that's certainly, there's certainly always the good side and the not so good side of things. And we have been focusing on those things that help the public and help society. Definitely, for example, one of the things that everyone loves there in the US is drone as a first responder. So instead of having to send a human being to a dangerous situation, what if you can send a drone? And those are the things that really will enable a positive societal view of drones. What if instead of delivering a package in 2 hours, I cannot deliver it, and in a green way in 1 or less? And, there is always, people sometimes think about, nuclear technology is so bad, but it's so bad if you do it for bombs, and it's so good if you do it for radiation machines that cure cancer. And I think what we are looking at is really working on those cases that are good for society and will enable a good use of the technology. It's not the technology, good or bad on itself, is the use, and we want to focus, we at MITRE certainly are focusing on those use cases that will be a positive societal impact.
Yeah, it's great to have a good story to tell, isn't it? And perhaps you can tell us what's been happening at the Barcelona Drone Center. Have you got a couple of good use cases that have come out of there that you think are going to be particularly strong in terms of showing people how it's going to work and showing the regulators what they can do?
Sure, yes. Like as a drone center, we're privileged to see every day like the state of the art of the industry, because we have like many stakeholders passing by and doing tests of this technology. But one of these use cases would be one of our clients, a big NGO, who realized that many people actually live and not too far away from big cities, but due to the lack of good road infrastructure, they live in a pretty isolated way. Because in Europe, for example, we used to, when we think about 100 kilometers, we tend to think that this can be covered in 1 hour drive. But in many countries, 100 kilometers means 1 day walk. And this is catastrophic when it comes to emergencies, like somebody needs blood, somebody needs painkillers, somebody needs snake antidote, these kind of things. So these guys realized that, and they came to our facilities to further test this technology, to be able to deliver all these high-value products to these isolated communities.
Brilliant, thanks. Hendrik, now let's just. What excites you about coming here, seeing what mobile network operators are doing, knowing what the drone industry is doing? What are the sort of projects, programs, possibilities that excite you particularly, seeing the convergence of these two industries? What are the possibilities you think are most interesting?
Philip, I can name you hundreds of case studies which bring an added value or good use to the industry. I have a favorite case study or use case is, I don't know if you know a drone in a box. This is a drone in a box. And for example, if you use this drone in a box solutions for wind turbines. I mean, most of the wind turbines are connected. This is what I know, or I heard. You can just place there also the drone in the box. And when you program it before, saying, okay, you start every week a mission, the drone starts to connect with the wind turbine stops, and the drone can do the mission, inspect the wind turbine, and send directly the data via a cloud to an operator sitting in the head office or headquarter of this wind turbine company. So this is one of my favorite use cases, and it's possible. Also today, it's possible to enable this and to implement this. So yeah, there are much more, and at the end, and I'm pretty sure that all kind of BVLOS missions, this was a BVLOS use case, they will only be reliable with 5G in the future. Right. And I hope that the traditional aviators from the aviation authorities accept this situation and go more into these new technologies instead of remaining or using the old traditional technology for communication between drones and people.
I'm going to pick up on one point you mentioned that. Eleanor, I'd like to ask you this one. What early best 5G applications do you think are available for the drone industry? What first use cases do you think drones can use the 5G networks for?
So really drones will be empowered by 5G networks, by the 5G connectivity and the 5G ecosystem. I mean, can you imagine the integration of both worlds? There is already over 5 billion people connected there. If they can interact somehow in delivery services and in other things with drones, and we get all this integrated, it will be fabulous. So definitely all the emergency case aspects, all the high value delivery aspects, I see those as the first ones that will be more critical to have developed, to have roll out. In a sense, the connectivity piece is where I see the opportunity, because many of these applications will require some of the capabilities that 5G can deliver in terms of low latency, in terms of bandwidth, so you can perform critical operations with drones and do things that you cannot even imagine or do today. So this integration is critical. We are working on that very actively as part of the OpenGen consortium to make it happen, because we really believe that putting all those together, such as the GSMA has done it with GSMA, and finding the synergies is what is going to make a kick-off for these really special, ultra-reliable, low-latency, and high-end use cases.
Thank you. Yeah, it is all about partnerships, isn't it?
Yes.
Making sure that we're all working together. Nicholas, I'm going to ask you, Nicholas, to round things up now. So what's the message? What's the one or two messages that people should go away from this event clear about? Not just the industry people, but the public. What should be the one or two things?
Yes. So first, this is not going to happen from one day to another. It will be step by step, incremental, as we have seen in the car industry or aviation industry. And two, this industry can bring a lot of positive impact in society, safety, sustainability, and this will help us also achieve a better and safer and fairer society also by bringing these new technologies to reality. That's my message.
That's really interesting, because I do think this is a very different industry from industries we've gone before. We have a fantastic opportunity here to create something new, and create something new on the basis of the values, not merely what the industry is doing, which is great, but it should be something that everybody has a part of. If you're part of the community, you can have a part of this industry. And this is what makes it so exciting and new and different, because I do believe that this is something we've never seen before. Was that okay? So on that note, I think it's probably a good time to stop. Thank you very much indeed for your attendance, and thank you for watching. Thank you. And thank you everybody here.